Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. It's your friendly nosy neighbor, Jessica Carden.
And Chad Murdock.
And we have a special guest, our friend that we found walking out on the street, Dr. Scott Woolstenhulme of District 93. So we have some interesting news. By the way, we're live. So if you are going to make comments, which we'd love to have that, hit hashtag live for comments. Or if you're watching on the replay, do hashtag replay and we can take care of that. So what are we here for, Chad?
Yeah, well, there's a vote coming up.
Should we step outside?
Okay, we're back. Okay.
And we're back. We don't know how far we're going. All right, Chad, why are we here?
Okay, so there is a levy, a vote coming up, and that is on the 9th.
Yep, Tuesday, March 9th.
Tuesday, March 9th. And we, as being nosy neighbors, want to make sure we get the word out on what it is about and why it is happening and what it really means, and really just information. We always say with our business, with good information,
you can make
good
decisions.
And so we figured we'd come straight to the superintendent to find out more about this levy.
Yeah.
What do we need to know, Dr. Woolstenhulme? Get that? Did you get that?
Yeah.
There it is.
Excellent. So on Tuesday, residents in Bonneville County will have the opportunity to vote. On the ballot, they'll see two different questions. One is to renew and increase our supplemental levy, and the other one is to renew and increase our plant facilities levy. So the supplemental, by state law, for us to receive that funding every year, we have to go to our voters every 2 years and ask them if they will still support doing that. On the plant facilities, it's every 10 years. So this year, our voters get to see both questions on the ballot.
Okay. And so what's the difference between the supplemental levy and the plants levy?
Excellent, Chad. So the supplemental levy, by definition, it supplements the funding we get from the state. So still, almost all of our funding comes from the state government through the taxes that we all pay through income tax or sales tax. And then in addition to that, we do get some funding from the federal government, but that's pretty limited. And so...
And we're live. That's how it works.
All right, thank you.
There we go, perfect.
And so what this does is it gives our residents in our school district decide if they're willing to support providing additional funding from our local property taxes. That really just helps with our everyday operational costs. But really what it does is it goes to things that the state doesn't fund. So for example, there's no state funding for extracurricular activities. So with all the things we do for our kids, whether it's sports, whether it's academics, whether it's performing arts, there's really no state funding that comes to us to do those things. And so these supplemental dollars or these local dollars are very helpful so we can provide those programs for our kids.
So specifically, what type of extracurricular activities, say sports, but I mean, what does it look like if you guys don't have, because you get so much from the state.
Yep.
And then this adds some addition to, which is able to provide what?
Yep. So we get about 65 to 70 million dollars from the state in our state funding. But from these local dollars, what we can do is we can do things like pay our coaches to coach our teams. We can pay advisors to be advisors over our programs.
Not that they're paid very much.
They're not. No, if you do it,
I mean,
they are not.
I know.
It is low. It is really low. But that little bit we can pay them, we really do depend on local dollars to do that. One of the really other interesting things is one of the key ways we use this is to supplement the funding we get for teacher salaries. And so the
Super
state's,
important.
Yeah, very important. And the state's done a really good job the last few years of raising starting teacher salaries, but they've done almost nothing to raise our veteran teacher salaries. And so that's really fallen to local school districts to say, if we want to keep good teachers in our classrooms, we really have to supplement that state funding with local dollars.
So in other words, without this, it's tough to give those raises.
Yeah, I mean, one incredible thing I've seen the last few years is we've finally been able to attract teachers from places like Wyoming, Montana, Nebraska, and
because we were losing them.
Because we were losing them.
Yeah.
Yep. So about for the last probably 3 or 4 years, we've seen a pretty good increase from those veteran out-of-state teachers coming to our area, and it's not just because of the funding. It's a great place to live, and they want to come here. What's different is they're now looking, and even though they're losing money coming from those states, it's at least close enough they're willing to make the move. Before, they were interested, but when they saw the difference in our salaries, they said, I'm sorry, but we just can't afford
to be a teacher in Idaho, which is too bad for us.
Yeah, and so those local dollars have really just made all the world of difference with those things. Maybe one other important thing I'd highlight is 4 years ago, when we ran the supplemental levy, we increased it pretty significantly. And one of the things we told our patrons is, if this gets approved, we can bring back PE and music into our elementary schools. And we actually lost that in the recession, So when we had these major budget cuts during the recession, that's one of the programs we just had to eliminate, and our voters supported that. And so that program really does rely very heavily on this support from our local patrons.
And is that back now?
It is. We've structured it differently, but in every elementary school we have two. They're called paraprofessionals, so they're not teachers, but they're paraprofessionals that work under the guidance of teachers to provide music instruction and PE instruction every week to kids.
So having kids in school, I remember when that was taken away.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was a pretty noticeable difference in their school.
Yep.
And so...
Yeah, when I was principal at Cloverdale, we had a certified teacher that did it, and then we lost it, and it made a huge difference for kids and their learning outcomes, and honestly, just their satisfaction at school. It makes all the difference. My kids are in elementary school. They love nothing more than PE day and music day, so that's a program that I personally love to support with this.
Cool.
Well, I know there are some states and there's some places across the country that are like, those are the things we cut.
Yeah.
And Idaho, we don't want to cut those things.
No.
It feels like a pretty small price to pay for our kids to get those important parts of the school.
Yep.
Right.
So then the other question is about the facilities levy. And this is a levy that's been in place in our district going back, we've counted the years, and it at least goes back to the 1950s, that our patrons have supported having these extra dollars to upkeep and maintain our buildings. And so what we've seen is that every 10 years as we renew this, we've added new buildings, we've added new grounds, and it just takes more dollars to support those new buildings. So in the last 10 years since our voters last approved this, we've built 2 elementary schools, a new high school, a new middle school, and as we develop those grounds and those buildings, then it takes more dollars to keep those things up. So all the equipment it takes to maintain those, to do snow removal out of all those extra parking lots, and then at the same time, we haven't closed any buildings, and so all of our buildings are 10 years older than they were before, and those means the heating systems are aging, the windows are aging, electrical's aging, and so those things take money to keep those old schools up and running. We've got schools that are over 100 years old that we still use here in our district, and that just takes some dollars to keep those in good working shape.
Wow.
So I know there's a lot of people that are number crunchers.
Yes.
And I'm sure on your website, and I don't know, but is there information for them to be able to look at the numbers?
Yep, absolutely. So if you go to our website, d93schools.org, there's a big banner that talks about levy information. It'll talk about how much this costs. On the ballot, they'll see that if these are approved, it will cost an additional $24 per year for each one of them. So a total of about $49 increase. And that's what a lot of people are focused on. And what we've tried to convey is really what we're saying is the dollars that we send towards these two will increase by that much. At the same time, our board will have the option to look at how much we're using towards our bonds, and they can actually decrease that amount. So I know that even though on Tuesday when they vote, they'll be saying yes to a $49 increase if they approve both of them, I know for a fact that it'll be less than that once our board crunches numbers and makes some decisions about how much they want to keep sending towards our bonds, because we've had great growth in the district, right? As you look around and you see new buildings being built, new businesses coming online, new homes coming online, that's brought extra dollars into the district, and that's allowed us to save a lot of money into our bond account, that now the board can actually start saying, okay, we don't have to use as much of our tax dollars towards that, and we can actually shift it towards these other two. But the board can't do that unless our voters tell us we can do it.
Okay. So this Tuesday, where do people find out where they vote? And I don't think there's anything else on a ballot, right?
Nope, just those two things. Okay. It's March is reserved as an election for schools, and across the state, I think it's somewhere around 60 other school districts that are running these elections on March. It's critical in March because we set our budget starting in March, and so as we start building our budget for next year, we really have to know, are these dollars that we have to build that budget or not? And as we go and start talking with teachers about what their salaries will be next year, we have to know.
Yeah.
So
we're just starting 2021. You guys are already planning 22.
Yeah. So people have criticized us and say we're trying to sneak it through in March, but really this is a critical date for us to be able to set a budget for next year, because again, we start talking with teachers next month about what salaries will look like. We start building that budget so our board can approve it in June. So
because teachers, if they want to find a new job for next year because we don't pay enough,
right? Yep. Because
if we can't,
if we
but this keeps them here, not looking for another job.
Yeah, exactly. So they should go to idahovotes.org to find out where to vote if they're not sure. But if they voted in the presidential election in November, they'll vote in the exact same place.
Okay.
Easy.
All right.
All right.
What type of turnout do you typically see for these?
So
these
are usually
elections,
relatively low. Historically, we're about 2,500 to 3,000 on these special elections. That's about 10% of our registered voters in our district, and so When we finally passed Thunder Ridge, we got all the way up to about 12 to 13,000 people that turned out for that one. But on these ones, again, it's typically pretty low turnouts. We'd love to see all of our patrons get out and vote.
Yeah, because you have the people that are super passionate about the levy. You have people that are super passionate that are against the levy.
Yep.
And we just, educate yourself, get as many people out there, vote on what you think is right, and see where it goes.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
So just one other plug, if patrons do have questions, on Monday night at 8 o'clock, we'll do a D93 live with me, so they can get on and they can shoot any questions that they want to us.
Where do they find that?
So on Facebook, if they just search for Bonneville School District on Facebook, 8 o'clock on Monday, we'll have that live. And
there's a link attached to this video.
so.
Okay.
All right.
And then they can just post questions on the Facebook page.
Yep, they can.
And it's just
Or they can even jump on and ask me questions face to face if they want. So.
So what's really neat is if you don't know what this money goes towards, and you haven't seen, we did a tour of Black Canyon.
Black Canyon.
Middle School, and that is a phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a great
it's coming
school.
online next year,
Yep.
and what I mean to think of the technology and then the differences that are there per any school I've ever seen. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and my kids go to Thunder Ridge, and I mean, there's nothing in there that I wish was not there.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple things I wish were there that maybe aren't. I mean, this is a school that's around. I mean, look at IF High School. Look at Bonneville. I mean, these schools are around a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, let's
These
take
schools are
care of-
preparing kids to live in this day and age.
Yes.
I mean, it's wonderful to attend a school that our grandparents attended. We went to high school in the same place.
Yes, we did.
In Driggs. The teachers all went to that high school.
Yep.
And that's wonderful, except for it's not preparing.
Yeah.
It's really to appreciate what this money does, whether you vote yes or no. Take a look at those schools and the amazing education that these kids are
We have a
getting.
comment from Amy Sunderland. She says IdahoVotes.org takes us to the Idaho Freedom Foundation.
Oh.
IdahoVotes.gov.
Sorry, I knew I was going to get that wrong.
Go to find
Yep.
where to vote.
Perfect.
I
Thank
appreciate
you,
that.
Amy.
Forgot
Yeah.
that little tidbit.
This is what I love about live.
It is.
I
That's
love
awesome.
it when we get a
Yep.
comment in there. So
Yep.
thanks, Amy.
IdahoVotes.gov.
Yes.
Will tell us where we
Yep.
need to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think I learned that the hard way a couple weeks ago. I should have remembered that. So.
Yeah, well,
You got to be careful what websites
I
you
know.
send people to,
Yes.
Dr. Wilson.
Yes, you do.
That's awesome. Okay, again, so there's a live with you on Monday.
Yep, Monday at 8
On
o'clock.
your Facebook page, the
Yes.
D93, I think it's Bonneville District 93 Facebook page.
Yes.
Bonneville School District 93, I think
Yes.
is how it goes. So check that out. There's a link in this, and get out to vote on Tuesday.
And share this video.
Yeah.
Get it out there. Educate. I mean, with good information, you can make good decisions. So study out things as much as you can, and go out and do your duty, whatever you choose to do on Tuesday, and vote. So.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
No, thank you. Appreciate the time.
awesome.
Good
Thank
to
you.
visit with you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Go out and check it out. This has been your nosy neighbor, Jessica Carden,
Chad Murdock.
keeping you in the know.